1,635 new positive cases were reported on July 20th, 2020 in the state of Mississippi, and school is not even in session yet. We all either have school-aged children or know somebody with school-aged children, and we know how hard it would be to teach them new habits even before this crazy virus has happened. I have done an extensive amount of research on this topic, and I have friends and family members who are school-aged children. The purpose of my speech today is to persuade everyone that K through 12 grade schools should remain closed this fall due to COVID-19. I strongly believe that schools should remain closed due to the fact that young children and teenagers aren't going to want to wear a mask every day. As parents, you won't know for sure if the schools are being properly sanitized, and due to HIPAA laws, we won't know if our children and staff members have been exposed or not to COVID-19. First, I'm going to talk about how the young children and teenagers aren't going to want to wear a mask. Young children and teenagers aren't going to want to wear a mask, let alone keep one on for hours at a time. Children are going to touch their face no matter what you tell them to do. They won't remember to use Germ-X either right before they touch their face, and most young children are more worried about being messy and silly with their friends than keeping clean. And teenagers nowadays are more worried about fitting in and looking cool with their friends. Masks can be uncomfortable for adults, so imagine how a child who's not used to having anything on their face would feel after wearing a mask. They are going to want to touch their face even more due to that new object being on their face, and so causing them to want to touch their face more. Jacqueline Cashman shared an article on Boston Herald saying that her son touches his face at least 22 times an hour without a mask on. She explains that she does not have enough Germ-X to make sure that her son sanitizes his hands before and after he touches his face, and that she believes that he has a higher chance of catching something while wearing a mask than wanting to mess with the mask and on his face. Now that I've talked about how children and teens aren't going to want to wear a mask, next I'm going to talk about how as parents you can't be for certain that the schools are being properly sanitized. As parents, you can't be for certain that the schools are doing their part in properly sanitizing the schools. How can you be certain that teachers and staff are doing their part to properly sanitize the school and the high-touch volume areas? Teachers and staff already have 101 things going on during the day, so what if they forget something? I have a family friend, Jennifer Sharp, who works at a high school as a custodian. She stated over the summer it was easy to properly sanitize the school without all the kids there like they do during the school year. She states that it was maybe only her and maybe 10 other co-workers there during the summer. But during the school year, there are at least 300 kids plus the students, so she doesn't know how they're going to be able to properly sanitize anything. With most schools, students change classrooms at least once a day, and each classroom may have at least 30 or more students. That is a lot of items to be properly sanitized by teachers, let alone what they have to do on the normal day-to-day basis. So what if they accidentally forget something to sanitize? Now that I have talked about how we can't be certain schools are being properly sanitized, I'm going to explain how HIPAA plays an effect in this. Due to HIPAA laws, parents will not be allowed to know the exact truth if a student or staff member has been tested positive for COVID-19. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. The CDC explains that this is a federal law that requires the creation of national standards to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent or knowledge. Meaning schools aren't allowed to disclose the name of a student or staff member whether they've been tested positive for COVID-19. They are only illegally allowed to send a letter out saying that their child or staff member may have been exposed to the virus. So this can end up causing more stress for parents, children, and staff members in the long run due to that it could be anyone with the virus. So are you as a parent or a friend of a parent okay with not knowing this child has been exposed to this virus? Are you willing to deal with the extra stress of reading each week a new letter saying your child may have been exposed to this virus? The purpose of my speech today has been to convince everyone to agree that K through 12th grade school should remain closed this fall. Children and teenagers aren't going to want to wear a mask all day at school, We can't know for certain if the schools are being properly sanitized every day during this pandemic, and due to the HIPAA, parents and staff will never know for certain if they have been truly exposed to this virus. Again, I have done a lot of research on this topic that means a lot to me due to having friends and family members who are in grade school. Almost 400 cases were reported in one area for 1 month in June of Mississippi. A little over 1,000 cases were reported in one day just this past week. These numbers could double or even triple with the schools reopening in the fall. Again, as a parent, are you willing to deal with the extra stress of your child being in school while this pandemic is showing signs of growing and getting worse? Or are you wanting those numbers to go down and let the health of our children be better?